So the Chiefs had some definite standout performances in their preseason matchup against the Lions. Some stood out in a good way, while others not so much, and further removed themselves from the conversation of making the 53-man roster. So let's take a deep dive into this game that also included the wild behind-the-back pass and much more. But first, how about those? All right, let's get into this preseason game against the Lions because there are a lot of takeaways here, from positive to some negatives. Let's hone in on the starters for the time being because the starting offense looked pretty good out there, though the Lions didn't play some of their starters, to be fair. The offensive line for KC had a bit of a different look, with both Joe Thuney not yet playing at left guard, as well as Jawan Taylor out of the game after tweaking his shoulder at practice earlier last week. That had Mike Caliendo filling in for Thuney once again at left guard, and then Lucas Niang was filling in for Jawan at the right tackle spot. And I'll just say, in the limited looks we saw from Lucas Niang, I will definitely be excited for Jawan Taylor to be back out there. Now, for the receivers, with Hollywood Brown out due to injury, the starting three were Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, and Justin Watson. There's no real surprise here, as I would view Watson as a lock on the roster as wide receiver 4, and he did get involved in the middle of the field for 20 yards on the opening drive, thanks in part to Worthy helping clear out the middle of the field as he screamed down the field. However, it's also worth noting that Justin Watson did miss the opening block on the first play of the game for the Chiefs offense that prevented a bubble screen to Rice getting any real positive yards. Then, after a throwaway on second down, that set up a very long 3rd and 11, but have no fear because Xavier Worthy is now here. Initially, pre-snap, I thought Worthy jumped early after going in motion as Creed snapped the ball, but honestly, I think the D-line jumped before that, so it would have been offsetting penalties, I think. Either way, Worthy won his route and was open for a 39-yard deep ball on 3rd and 11. I was just so happy, over the moon, to see a deep ball getting completed, traumatized from last year still, and while it's preseason, the game didn't matter on the stat sheet, blah, blah, blah. Worthy looked great out there, with Andy Reid noting after the game the offense made a concerted effort to get both Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy involved. Watson then caught that aforementioned 20-yard pass in the middle of the field to move the chains. Pacheco was face masked to a no call. There was no penalties called in this game for whatever reason, and the first team offense stalled out at the 15-yard line with Harrison Butker kicking an easy 3 points. And again, with the Lions resting their key starters, that means we never saw Jared Goff out there on the first drive for Detroit, but man, Karlaftis had an incredible rep on the first play, causing big-time pressure on the right side for Nate Sudfeld. Chris Jones didn't dress out, along with several other key defenders, including Derek Nottie, Nick Bolton, Jalen Watson, and Justin Reed, so you saw some others work in their stead. And for the secondary, we did see Najee Johnson out there working with the first-team defense alongside McDuffie and Joshua Williams at times. I also saw Najee working pretty late into the game, like in the fourth quarter, but that could have been a matter of just giving him some extra snaps due to him missing the entire 2023 NFL season after tearing his ACL. Safety Tamari Connor was out there working more as well with Justin Reed out, and he missed a tackle early on in the opening drive. Then near the end of the first quarter, he missed another pretty bad tackle as the running back spun, and Connor simply missed. So hopefully he can clean those up, but he did have a borderline pile drive of a tackle on this play here in the second quarter, which was very nice, and then had another big tackle near the goal line just before halftime as well. So it's definitely not all bad out there for Connor by any means. Then safety Jaden Hicks, who was all over the place once again this week, did not miss this tackle here on the Lions' opening drive. What a hit. Hicks also had an awesome tackle on the last play of the first quarter, coming downhill fast and showing great IQ, only allowing a 2-yard pickup. He also had a great pass breakup in the end zone to prevent a touchdown. There was some contact there, maybe could have drawn a flag, but the officiating crew again was kind of just letting these guys play all day long. Then Mecole Hardman was the first returner out there after the defense held up on the first drive. And I also want to mention that Jack Cochran should have blocked this punt, or very well could have blocked this punt, the Lions' first punt, but was held massively, which actually did draw a flag. So a great rep there from Cochran, and I think it's somewhat noteworthy that Hardman was the first returner out there as we evaluate some of these depth piece receivers, seeing who was out there first or early. That's a positive sign for Hardman. That's why it's also a positive to see running back Carson Steele out there on the Chiefs' second offensive drive with the starters. He had a short carry on first down and could be seen out there pass blocking for Mahomes. Another guy working in early was Rashee Rice. He was absolutely feasting on this drive. He caught back-to-back passes for 14 yards apiece, then lost a short pass in the sun as he went in motion behind the line of scrimmage, but after that was targeted once again and picked up 7. So that was 4 straight targets for the second-year wideout, and he's going to be possibly the player of anybody on offense to watch this year. I think he's going to absolutely dominate in the middle of the field. Anyway, that 7-yard pass right there, it was a great-looking whip route by Rice, and Mahomes once again dotted the ball right where it needed to be. He looks good out there, and that set up a 3rd and 3, which resulted in a play everyone's going to talk about for quite some time because Mahomes hit Kelce for a first down via a behind-the-back pass. Mahomes opted to keep the RPO with Steele running up the gut, and as Mahomes rolled right, he ended up tossing a semi-low ball behind the back that Kelce scooped up before it hit the ground as he turned around after pretending to block. And upon first glance, it looked like a designed play, like perfectly timed. Kelce turned around, it hit him basically in stride. Yet later, both Mahomes and Kelce said that it was Kelce actually the guy who messed up on the play. He was supposed to run an out route, yet mixed up the call, and Mahomes said he threw it like that to Kelce out of frustration, and he also didn't really know how else to get Kelce the ball. However, Andy Reid told the media after the game the play was not on Kelce, making it seem like it maybe could have been a designed play after all. And I don't really know. The more I watch it, the more I think, for whatever reason, both Kelce and Mahomes weren't really being truthful about the play being miscommunication and not designed. I mean, Kelce seemed like he knew the ball was going to be coming his way as he turned around, and the timing was perfect from Mahomes to Travis. And he said Mahomes does throw that pass every day in practice, so it wasn't a big deal. They work on it a lot, and it was caught. And now that you guys have seen this play multiple times as well, what do you think? Do you think Kelce and Mahomes aren't being truthful here and the play was designed? Or do you think Kelce actually messed up on his route? He should have ran an out route, and it truly was a freelance by Mahomes to get him the ball. Let me know either way in the comments down below. Anyway, the excitement of this game kept going as we saw Xavier Worthy's first ever NFL touchdown, a hell of a Deneric Prince run, as well as Kadarius Toney causing more negative plays for the offense. So I've got to talk about that and more. But first, I got to shout out the longest active sponsor of the channel, Bear Mattress. Bear is a premium fiberglass free mattress designed to upgrade your sleep quality, and it's conveniently shipped to your door for free within the US. They've launched early access to their Labor Day sale, but Bear has also given me a unique discount code that is higher than what's being offered on site. So head to bearmattress.com/HBTC and use my code HBTC. We've had our mattress for nearly 2 years now, which is kind of crazy and has been great for my low back pain. And we loved ours so much, we got a Bear Cub mattress for our daughter as well a few months ago, and she's been borderline hibernating ever since. But don't just take our word for it. Bear also just ran a survey on over 300 of their recent customers where 82% saw an improvement in their sleep quality on their new Bear mattress, which is why 95% of those customers said they'd recommend Bear to a friend. Plus, Bear knows everybody has different preferences and sleep positions, which is why there's an online quiz you can take to help remove all the guesswork. I sleep on my back and prefer a medium firmness to my mattress, but my wife sleeps on her stomach and prefers a mattress that's more firm, and that's why Bear matched us up with the Elite Hybrid mattress to benefit us both. And our experience was just like yours would be after ordering. Both of these mattresses were shipped to our front door, again, for free in the US, were super easy to unbox and set up, and has made our nights a better sleep experience overall. If you sleep hot, Bear's sleep recovery technology uses Celliant-powered fabric to help you stay cool throughout the night. Then, unlike some other brands, they also don't contain fiberglass, which can be detrimental to your health, and all of their mattresses are created without the use of harmful chemicals, so you can sleep safely and soundly knowing there will be no off-gassing. And speaking of benefits, Bear believes in their products so much that they even offer a 120-night sleep trial, so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. Plus, they even offer financing options and flexible payment plans. I certainly love my quality of sleep with Bear Mattress, and I think you will too. So, to upgrade your sleep, go to bearmattress.com/HBTC and use code HBTC to get 40% off plus $400 of sleep accessories for a limited time. This is actually higher than what's being offered on site, so check it out while you can. All right, the excitement of this game kept going for the Chiefs offense after that behind-the-back pass, because on the very next play, Worthy was popped a reverse after a fake handoff to Carson Steele, and he turned upfield for a very quick 11 yards and another first down. There was a scary moment where Worthy fumbled upon contact, but thankfully was able to dive back on the ball. Someone, though, missed their block, and the broadcast angle had me thinking it was Creed Humphrey, though as you can see from the angle, this backside angle here, I'm not so sure that was actually on Creed. Had the blocks been executed, that's a touchdown. So I don't know if that was on Kingsley, and he was supposed to bounce further upfield, or maybe Wiley that was supposed to while Kingsley hit the closer outside block, or maybe it was even Rice's fault. But either way, somebody missed a block, and some small fixes there would have had Worthy scoring 2 touchdowns on the day rather than 1. Sadly, though, the first team offense sputtered again in the red zone after a short steal run for 4 yards, an incompletion to Worthy as Mahomes kind of just tossed him up a 50-50 ball in the end zone. And then on 3rd and 7, this screen pass to Steele went absolutely nowhere. I'm not sure if that was a little bit of Lucas Niang's fault there or what happened, but it was no bueno, and the result was yet another red zone stall for KC's offense. And I know it's just the preseason. I get it. I'm not freaking out, but I hope they're able to figure out the red zone woes, because last season should hopefully be a thing of the past. They were the middle of the pack in red zone touchdown percentage in 2023 after being second in 2022. So I do want to see more touchdowns in the red zone this year, please, God. Now, KC did get another red zone opportunity almost immediately after Harrison Butker kicked his second field goal of the day, because the Lions fumbled on the kickoff. Cam Jones penetrated the wall and made an incredible tackle, with his helmet making the ball pop out. I believe it was Carson Steele that came out of the pile with the football, and that was an excellent special teams play there. Cam Jones had an awesome tackle in the second quarter on special teams as well, and if he wants to make the roster as a depth piece linebacker, this is certainly a way to do it, by standing out on special teams and getting that nod of approval from Dave Toub. And while he was a standout on special teams, he did struggle at times on defense, missing more than 1 tackle in the middle of the field during this game. But hey, I will say special teams overall looked way better this week compared to last. Instead of giving up 2 huge kick returns, they made an excellent play to give the offense the ball right back. Butker went perfect on the day, making 3 field goals and 2 extra points. Matt Araiza had 2 punts over 60 yards, 4 of his 6 punts on the day, I believe, landing inside the 20, and he went from averaging 40 yards a punt last week to 49 yards a punt yesterday. On top of that, long snapper James Winchester actually hurt his shoulder in some capacity on the first punt of the game. And get this, Noah Gray filled in as the backup long snapper, which is something he's never done before and had to be taught or coached on the sideline. And he successfully snapped for 2 punts and 1 field goal in the second quarter. Winchester thankfully came back in the second half. A much welcomed sight, because he's a very valuable veteran player on special teams. But I thought it was awesome that Gray was able to step in and make things happen when he had never done that before. And to keep these special teams train rolling here, LRZ started the game with a return of 26 yards. And while LRZ did have that return, that was about it for him. Aside from a couple of kicks on kickoffs, he did play a little bit on offense near the very end of the game. But that was about it for him, aside from a couple of kicks on kickoffs. The kicks were fine, but he didn't come in and see any offensive playing time until late in the fourth quarter, and I just don't currently see a realistic path for him to make the 53-man roster, especially when you have Carson Steele out there with the first-team offense, and also even returning a kickoff midway through the second quarter up to the 36-yard line. That was actually the second best kickoff of the day outside of Sky Moore. More on Sky here later, though, because I think his stock is definitely up after this game. But if we get back to the offense here, after Detroit fumbled on that kickoff, I took a detour, but Carson Wentz came out with some of the starters on offense for that next series. Worthy caught a quick pass. Steele had a short carry. Then on 3rd and 7, Wentz had 3 targets lined up to his left, with Worthy being one of them. Steele had a great block and pass protection, and then Wentz found a wide open Worthy on a crosser for the score. Worthy had a little stutter step, then hit the gas, and Wentz lofted it to him. A beauty of a pass for an easy 6 points. A great play there to showcase just how dangerous Worthy's speed is and the different ways he can be utilized in this offense, from crossers to behind the line of scrimmage, jet sweeps, and even deep passes. And from here, I want to focus more on the standout plays/players and less on a chronological order, because even though this game was a lot of fun, went down to the wire, and the Chiefs lost, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to focus more on guys who are standing out as the Chiefs aim to cut this roster from 90 down to 53 here very soon. Carson Steele, talked about him a little bit, but he had a nice catch in the middle of the field from Wentz, stiff-arming his way for a couple of extra yards. So when you combine Steele's ability to stand out on special teams, he recovered that fumble, he had a nice kick return, he's pass blocking in there, doing some running, blocking as a fullback, and catching passes out of the backfield. His stock is up, continuing to rise as he gets looks all over the field and even carries with the first-team offense before Deneric Prince this game. Then let's talk about another guy that is still standing out to me, all things considered, and that's Justin Ross. He had almost another incredible grab up the sideline in this game. Wentz launched a 30-plus yarder to him on 3rd and 7, and while Ross did secure the grab, his second foot was just inches away from being in bounds. But the fact that it was that close, I'm going to give him a nod of positivity on that play, even though he technically recorded 0 catches in this game on 2 targets. His other target should have been a flag for defensive pass interference, though, because this defensive back in coverage literally hugged Ross to prevent him from attempting to raise his arms and make a play on the ball. And while I currently have him making the roster as wide receiver 7, if the Chiefs end up rolling with 7, that is, I'm intrigued to see how he does in this last preseason game because he needs to improve or be more consistent in the blocking aspect of things on offense, which we will get to here in a bit. Another guy to keep eyes on is running back Deneric Prince. Sure, Carson Steele seems to have passed him up on the depth chart, but that doesn't mean Prince is out of the running to make this 53. He had an awesome carry up the left sideline, for example, for 41 yards on this play here in the second quarter, the longest run of the day for either team by far. Then look at offensive tackle Ethan Driscoll moving up the field blocking for Prince. He just got called for a hold the play prior, talking about Driscoll. So this was a great effort from him as Prince galloped his way up the left sideline for 41. Prince has definitely risen a bit in my eyes. He caught a nice pass last week and has gotten involved, shown some flashes just yesterday as well. And with CEH's health making him a question mark as far as reliability goes, I'll be curious to see if the team elects to have Prince on the 53 along with Carson Steele as well or not. Next up, Kadarius Toney. Let's talk about him. He ended up being the next guy to catch the second punt of the day. So it went Mecole Hardman, then Toney, but he didn't see the offense until midway into the second quarter. He was then flagged twice on the same play, once for illegal formation and then again for offensive holding. So he once again lined up a bit too far for the officials' liking. It wasn't offsides, but he was supposed to be a step off the line, I believe, and instead lined up even with the offensive line. Then he was holding on the play that negated a decent run up the left side by Deneric Prince. Andy Reid then pulled him for a play to think about it, and after that, Wentz did target Toney immediately upon his re-entry, but that was an impossible catch to make. Then, his only other target on the day resulted in a loss of like 4 yards. This play here, bubble screen. But this play was not actually Toney's fault at all. Justin Ross actually whiffed pretty badly on this blocking assignment, so this loss is really on Justin Ross. Ross's inconsistency in the blocking game aside, I do still feel better about him than I currently do about Toney. I honestly didn't have Toney making the 53-man roster before this game, yet I was still open to the idea of him making the roster depending on how his last 2 preseason performances looked. But this one wasn't really a standout day for Toney by any stretch of the imagination, and he currently looks to be on the outside looking in. I mean, shoot, even Sky Moore contributed on kickoffs with a return up to the 35, as well as another return later on that got KC up near the 50-yard line. If there's anything to take away from that, it's that the new kickoff rules may have really helped Sky Moore out for this season and allowed him to carve out a bit of a role for the team. He could be a depth piece guy on the offense, just in case of injury, could step in. Connor Embry, the wide receiver coach, said he knows every receiver position and the whole playbook. And then he could be used as one of the 2 primary kick returners. Sky also saw the field on offense much earlier than Toney. Then when you combine that with the fact that Sky still has 2 years left on his pretty cheap rookie deal, cost control, he was the next man in after Hollywood Brown last week due to Watson not playing as he rested his foot. And then what Connor Embry said, I don't see how Sky does not make the roster as wide receiver 5 or 6 on the depth chart. At the very least, if somehow both Sky and Toney don't make the roster, Sky is currently the more likely of the 2 to make it. Nico Remigio is a receiver who also had a nice return. It was a punt return as he weaved himself up the right sideline all the way to midfield. he was very close to taking this to the house, only needing to make one man miss. He's lower on the pecking order, though, from a returner standpoint. Again, he's like the third or fourth punt returner after McCole and then Tony. And when he saw the field on offense in comparison to McCole Hardman, who I think is shaping up to be the team's starting returner, I don't know what to do with Nico. I think he probably doesn't make the 53 at this point in time. McCole didn't have much on the day this week, with Wentz targeting him once on a deep ball, but the ball was out of Hardman's reach. And then sure, Chris Oladokun threw the ball near McCole on this play, but even Andre the Giant himself wasn't going to catch that overthrow. And if I had to go with either McCole Hardman or Nico Remigio at this point in time, I'm definitely going to roll with McCole. Now, another receiver who's probably not making the roster, but had the longest play of the game, was Cornell Powell. He snatched this Chris Oladokun pass in the fourth quarter, juked one man out of his soul, broke a tackle, then high-stepped his way to the sideline for the score. This was a fun moment to see for Powell, who actually suggested this play to Matt Nagy. Thought that was pretty awesome. And he's most likely going to be back on the practice squad this season, as a guy to have around in case of emergency, but it was still a great play to see from him nonetheless. From here, I want to take a look at some players on the defense because there's plenty to talk about. I will say the middle of the field is a weakness for KC right now. Even with the first team defense out there, that's probably because both Nick Bolton and Justin Reed aren't playing right now. So once they return, things should be better, much better. But the backups struggled as well off and on all game long, giving up chunk plays and missing tackles in the middle of the field. Hopefully things look a bit better overall there on Thursday for the last preseason game, please. But with that, the first player I think that is worth mentioning is defensive back Chris Roland Wallace. His stock is definitely up in my opinion. He led the team with 9 tackles and had a nice PBU. He seemed like he was all over the field and could be a guy potentially fighting for that last cornerback spot. They're using him all over the secondary right now, so you've got versatility. He was playing some special teams, and he could be making a case for the 53-man roster over somebody like the rookie 6th-round pick in Kamal Hadden. Roland Wallace is seeing the field before Kamal, and then with him playing all over the secondary, that definitely ups his value. Roland Wallace is at least somebody to keep eyes on for preseason game 3. Then, while Keith Taylor had a great INT on this play here, undercutting the route and turning himself into the receiver, he also did give up a big 61-yard touchdown to the Lions as Caden Davis took that bad boy to the house. So, some highs and some lows for Keith Taylor. Then, Felix Anudike-Uzomah left much to be desired even after preseason game number 2, in my opinion. While he did have a nice play here, batting the pass off the edge, he batted it down as he was a free runner on 3rd down, forced a punt, showed great reflexes. That was awesome. That's still probably his biggest highlight of the day for him, and he played 50 snaps on defense. That's a piss ton. Out of those 50 snaps, he only had 2 recorded pressures on the day per PFF. He got close on this play here in the 3rd quarter, showing some moments here and there, like this one, but still has a ways to go, in my opinion. He also seemed to play slightly improved against the run compared to last week for what it's worth. But then there's also a play like this, the first play of the second half where the Lions ran a jet sweep and Felix honestly had no clue what was going on. I get it. It's impossible to be able to see everything. You're not always going to know exactly what's coming. But there were times where FAU simply looked a little confused and completely gassed due to playing so many snaps. And then when you combine that with him lacking flashes against the Lions' 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stringers, I don't know. I guess I was hoping for a little bit more from FAU in this game. He's still very young. I think he's the 3rd or 4th youngest player on the team, and he was drafted nearly a year and a half ago, and then hopefully because of that isn't even close to peaking yet. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for probably a good portion of the season first before making any real judgments on him. Next up, here's some quick hitter stuff. Truman Jones had a great tackle for loss as well here on this play, which was great, and he also recorded a half a sack with Neil Farrell Jr., who, to be honest, looked a little gassed out there himself at times, but the guy played 28 snaps, and on this play here, he took a nap on the field to rest up, which I think gave him enough strength to make this sack a few plays later. Then, UDFA linebacker Curtis Jacobs played 24 snaps and had this incredible standout tackle for loss, reading the run the entire way and tackling the back for like a 5-yard loss. And while PFF grades don't matter much, especially in the preseason. Curtis Jacobs was the highest graded player on the Chiefs defense by far at a 91 overall, and with the next two players being Keith Taylor and Swayze Bozeman at 83.1, that's a pretty good showing for Curtis Jacobs. Jacobs also played 13 snaps on special teams, and he's putting together a nice case to make the 53-man roster. And honestly, guys, I could go on and on here, but those are most of the standout plays and key takeaways for me from this game. But let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Whose stock is up to you? Whose stock is down? Where did you agree with me? Where did you disagree with me? Let me know. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?